So is your ego making you broke? Whether it's the type of people that you surround yourself at work or your friend group that maybe you're new to a city and you're surrounding yourself with friends that overspend constantly and you've now jumped on that train and you don't know how to get off of it. Ego can be the reason as to why you're maybe feeling broke. And I want to talk about the 6 ways which the ego can actually break your bank balance and how to overcome that. So the very first way is ego in the workplace. So are you the type of person that maybe you have a stressful job, but you don't ask for help because it seemed as weakness to others? Or maybe you're the type of person that overspends on clothes for work because they want to look successful or they want to give across a certain image when they're commuting into their job. This is all led by the ego, okay? It's not necessarily the real you, but it's an image that you want to portray to the world. So if you're overspending on clothes, of course it's not going to make you more successful, girl. You can get, a capsule wardrobe and still do your job perfectly fine. And in the same breath, if you're not asking for help in a job that's super stressful and you need advice from a senior leader in that team, that's okay to do. If you're feeling like your ego is not allowing you to be a bit vulnerable in those situations, you're never going to grow. The ego can be put in our place as a boundary to prevent us from growth and developing ourselves because we just want to be seen like we can do it ourselves. But actually, it's okay to ask for help. And it's okay to not spend loads of money to try and look cool in the office, okay? So you could be preventing your career development by not asking for help or not understanding how you can grow further in the role. And also, you're breaking your bank balance if you're just trying to show an image of looking amazing, but actually you've no savings, you're not putting money into a pension because you're using that to afford the lifestyle that you have instead. So really understand where your money is going and what actually do you want to get out of this life? Do you just want to be perceived as successful, but in reality you don't have any money behind anything? I recently did this video where I got rid of 50% of my wardrobe and it totally changed how I view the world. For example, I mainly now buy stuff which is just linen or just cotton or a better quality material. And I felt like I've been able to be a lot more minimalist. It doesn't affect my work, of course. I don't have decision fatigue when I open my wardrobe because I spend less time picking out an outfit because everything goes together. The more stuff you buy, the more overwhelming it can be. And you feel like you're in this cycle where you constantly have to keep buying stuff to keep up with trends or to try and outdo someone in the office. So really check your ego in that state and if you feel like the workplace is actually doing you disservice there. The second point I want to talk about is overcompensating for status. So an example of this is if you're going for after work drinks and you want to try and impress people. So maybe you buy the rounds after rounds after rounds. You say to a friend at work, hey, let's go out to lunch, it's on me. You feel like a baller, but of course all your money is just being spent there, thrown into the abyss. You never see that money again. So these are ego-driven actions, and it doesn't mean you're going to progress your career because you bought your manager a drink or that you've taken a colleague out for lunch. Yes, you might be more popular in the office or seen as the fun one, but in reality, you could be spending hundreds there just to try and win the affection of others. Of course, be nice to people. Of course, every now and again, buy someone a drink, but not have to do it every week or not have to feel like it's something you have to do in order to get ahead in your job. If you feel like you don't have the money for these things, of course don't do that and be very honest about that, Figure enough if you have the money to do that, that's not what I'm saying. If you're on a 100k job and you're happy to spend £200 a month and that kind of thing, go for it, you have the money, right? But if you're someone who's on maybe a lower salary, who feels like they fall into this trap and don't know how to get out of the overspending cycle, of course step back from it all and assess your ego in that state. And are you overcompensating there? And are you paying for stuff that you actually can't afford, or maybe even using credit cards to buy a round of drinks for your colleagues? Really assess where your money is going and understand, making a budget can be really helpful here. So if you get paid £3,000 a month, what percentage of that can you realistically afford to spending on drinks every other week with colleagues? Or maybe that money is better spent elsewhere. If you're really friendly with your colleagues and you want to get ahead in your career, of course you can socialize and do things. But, giving it a certain amount of money every month and a budget for yourself so you're not over splurging or spending money on expensive handbags and designer clothes just to try and feel like you're worth something. You are worth something regardless of the labels of the clothes that you buy, okay? So it's about the confidence that you have within yourself to do the job, being friendly to others, of course, having the crack, of course, but understanding that overspending to overcompensate your status is not doing you any favors. The third way in which the ego may be keeping you broke is friends and financial decisions, okay? So maybe you're trying to compete with friends to get the most luxurious gift for their birthday. And you could be putting this on credit card. I've seen people put this on a payment plan to get like headphones for someone. This was recently in like a Graham Stephan video that I saw, that she wanted to get her friend headphones for her birthday, couldn't afford it, but put herself on a payment plan and was putting herself into debt just to try and be very extravagant for her friend. This is so stupid on so many levels, guys. Like, if you are really good friends with someone, of course they don't care what kind of gift you give them. They are more likely wanting to just be around you, you know, have the crack together, you know, go for road trips together, have more experiences, rather than you going into debt for them. If they were a true friend, of course they wouldn't want that for you. So why are you doing it to yourself? So really step back and understand, what are you spending in your friendship groups? Are you trying to outcompete each other and go on the most coolest, luxurious trips ever so that you can boast about it in your WhatsApp group? Are you spending heaps of money on extravagant gifts for them for their birthday and for Christmas? Are you buying a new outfit every time you go to the club, you know, because you want to be seen and be the coolest in the group or whatever the fuck, right? Or are you buying a new outfit every time you go on a trip with them or every time you go to a nightclub, okay? Are you racking up hundreds, maybe even thousands every year just to try and look better than the friend beside you? That's the ego talking, and that's, you know, incredibly stupid. Even if you're doing it from a place of love, like you want to just get them a nice gift, if you can't afford it, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're going into debt for literally no reason because your friend probably doesn't even want this expensive gift, okay? And you're kind of in the totally wrong mindset, because you shouldn't have to buy people's friendships to be friends with them. You know, if they were genuine friends, they wouldn't want any of this excessive materialistic stuff. So really step back and assess, you know, where are you with that? You know, have you fallen into a trap without even realizing it? The next one is about the trap of social comparison. Now, this could be with friends or in the workplace. Maybe you're chatting to a colleague and you know that they live in Notting Hill, you know, right by Portobello Market, and they spend £2,000 a month on an apartment. And you might be the type of person that's just moved to that area and feel like £2,000 is too much, but if my colleague is doing it, maybe I'll do it too. So in that situation, maybe you don't have enough money to save, maybe you don't have enough money to even eat healthy, you're just scrimping on food because you want to say to your colleague, oh yeah, I also live in Notting Hill, it's such a cool area, I'm so lucky to live there that I can afford it, even though you can't afford it, okay? So that's the ego in social comparison situations, okay? So you might be putting financial pressure on yourself there because you're trying to be equal to someone else who's probably also overspending, or maybe you're trying to act a little bit better than them. Maybe you've got a slightly nicer flat, maybe you've got slightly nicer clothes than them. You're spending more and probably beyond your means to show this to them. Now, you might be doing this in the subconscious way. I'm not saying that people here are mean and horrible and they only want to be better than everyone else, okay? A lot of the time with the ego, it's like a subconscious thing where you want to prove to yourself and to others that you are good, you know? You're all good, you're independent, you can do this by yourself. But in reality, if you're spending £2,000 in an apartment, but you're only getting paid $2,500 every month, that's of course ludicrous, and I hope nobody is doing that, okay? Because you're living so beyond your means that if you were to get laid off, for example, or if you're sick and you can't get your full pay, you're putting yourself in a very dangerous situation where you won't be able to pay your rent or your mortgage in that situation. So understand what you can afford for yourself and don't live above your means. This can also happen with something called lifestyle inflation. So for example, if you get a promotion and you're earning £500 extra every month, instead of saving that remainder, which is probably what you should be doing, you are just spending that on going out for more brunches, buying more clothes, maybe living in a better area, maybe getting a car loan to get a Mercedes-Benz, okay? You are inflating your lifestyle there. Even though you're getting more money, you don't feel any more well off because you've spent it on things rather than investing or saving for your future self. So lifestyle inflation can happen so easily, especially in a big city like London here. I see it all the time. It happens to myself, you know. One day you're like, no, I'm not going to spend, you know, £12 for avocado and toast, and then the next weekend you're like, oh no, I will. I'll just do it. It's fine. I can afford it. Lifestyle inflation is everywhere, and it can trip you up an awful lot. But if you're doing it to mainly, seem better off than the person next to you, that's the ego speaking, and you need to put yourself in check there. So the fifth thing I want to talk about, there are practical ways to counteract the ego. So what you can do is build genuine connections with friends, so you don't feel like you have to go into debt in a credit card to buy them some headphones for their birthday, okay? You can also learn a lot more about personal finance on channels like this, ding, or else, people like Nishka, who's also a UK-based personal finance channel, who I feel is also, very knowledgeable in the space, or people like Graham Stephan, who is on YouTube for free and talks about it from an American perspective, but also adds a lot of humor to personal finance. So it doesn't have to be boring, You don't have to sit in a lecture about taxes and lose brain cells while you're watching it because you find it so boring, You can educate yourself with channels like this, or books that I like to recommend, which is The 4-Hour Work Week, which is really understanding, how money can work for you rather than you having to work for money, but also understanding the concept of your time. And is it worth overspending on luxurious items if you can't afford it? No, it is not. Other books like Rich Dad Poor Dad or The Psychology of Money is really good to understand, why are you spending money on stuff even if you can't afford it? So educating yourself on personal finance will help set you long-term goals for yourself, such as getting into investing, maybe buying a property in the future, maybe, setting up your own business if that's what you really wanted to do. So building supportive and non-competitive friendships can, of course, build you up from the inside and help you grow as a person, but also become more aware of the money that you were spending on trying to get into friendship groups that maybe just weren't right for you. But also find a way to bring in multiple streams of income so you're not so reliant on your one job. Having things like an emergency fund, which is 3 to 6 months of living expenses, can help set you up there as a base. If anything shit were to happen, you have a pot of money there for a rainy day. So setting yourself up financially for yourself is way more important and more fruitful than trying to impress and use your money to impress others. So if you want to be better with your money in the new year, subscribe to this channel. It would really help me out, guys. Thanks. And if you want to learn more, I tend to post 2 videos a week on personal finance and how to be better with money. So stay tuned. Thanks, guys. Bye.